Have you ever lost so much in the markets that you felt there was no way back, that the game was over for you? If so, you're walking the same path as one of history's greatest market minds, though few realize what this experience truly signifies. What if I told you that total financial ruin isn't the end of your trading journey, but perhaps its true beginning? The secret that separates the amateur from the master isn't found in victory, but in devastating defeat. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. In the mysterious world of financial markets, there exists a hidden truth that most traders never discover until it's too late, if they discover it at all. This truth was painfully revealed to Richard Wyckoff, not once, but multiple times throughout his legendary career. Has this ever happened to you? That moment when you realize the market has humbled you completely, stripping away not just your capital, but your very identity as a trader. Wyckoff understood something profound that most traders spend a lifetime avoiding. The speculator who has never been wiped out, who has never been forced to confront the abyss of his own failure, is a speculator who has not yet completed his education. For, in this business, ruin is the great and unforgiving teacher. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you view your losses and setbacks in the market. Total collapse isn't a mark of permanent defeat, but rather a necessary rite of passage for anyone who engages with the market seriously. The true measure of a trader isn't avoiding defeat, but finding the strength to rise again with newfound wisdom. Wyckoff's career embodied the cyclical nature of market success in ways few could imagine. He climbed to extraordinary heights on Wall Street, accumulating vast wealth and acclaim, only to lose everything and start from zero. Then, remarkably, he would rebuild, ascending once again to even greater heights before another devastating fall. This pattern repeated throughout his life, revealing something crucial about market mastery that most traders never grasp. What was this insight that emerged from Wyckoff's multiple journeys through financial devastation? What law did he discover that most traders never learn? The answer lies not in some secret technical pattern or hidden indicator, but in something far more fundamental to lasting market success. It's about understanding that losing everything isn't the end, but rather an opportunity to begin again with greater understanding and discipline. The question isn't whether you'll face ruin in your trading career. It's what you'll do when that moment arrives, and whether you'll recognize it for what it truly is. If you resonated with Wyckoff's journey and want more insights into market psychology and trading wisdom, hit that subscribe button. Join our community of traders who understand that true mastery comes through confronting our biggest failures. The path to this revelation began with Wyckoff's first devastating collapse, a transformation that would forever alter his trading mindset. As a young prodigy in Boston's bucket shops, he had developed what appeared to be an infallible method of reading the tape. His system worked flawlessly in that simple, fast-moving environment. He could see the patterns, anticipate the moves, and execute with precision. He had, in essence, solved that particular game. With well-earned confidence and a respectable stake, Wyckoff brought his talents to the New York Stock Exchange, certain his proven methods would yield the same spectacular results. What happened next was a profound revelation that few traders ever truly internalize. The environment had changed, but his approach hadn't adapted. The ticker was delayed. Executions weren't instantaneous. The scale of capital was vastly larger. What worked brilliantly in one context became a broken tool in another. The market, in its impersonal wisdom, proceeded to teach him this lesson in the most painful way possible. By taking everything he had, his entire capital, the fruit of years of successful operation, vanished. This hidden truth about market mastery is rarely discussed in trading books or courses. The methods that bring you initial success can become the very chains that bind you to future failure if you don't recognize when conditions have changed. Wyckoff learned through devastation what most never grasped through study. Adaptability isn't just advantageous, it's essential for survival. Now, I want to go even deeper into this crucial aspect of Wyckoff's journey, perhaps even more dangerous than applying outdated methods to new environments is the peculiar poison that success itself can inject into a trader's decision-making process. After correctly anticipating the panic of 1907, Wyckoff had positioned himself perfectly. By selling the market short, he accumulated millions when others lost everything. He had looked into the financial abyss and emerged a king. His reputation was cemented as one of Wall Street's greatest minds. Yet this historic triumph contained within it the seeds of his next catastrophic downfall. The psychological impact of making a great fortune is perhaps the most perilous state a speculator can experience. A subtle shift occurs in the mind. A feeling of infallibility begins to take root. Respect for the market's inherent risk diminishes. The humility that once guided cautious decision-making gives way to a dangerous certainty. This is exactly what happened to Wyckoff. Flush with success and convinced of his market mastery, he entered the cotton market with unprecedented aggression. He built a position of such magnitude that it dwarfed even his most ambitious previous trades. He was no longer speculating with caution. He was betting with the reckless abandon of someone who believed they could not lose. What makes this part of Wyckoff's story so valuable is how it illuminates the hidden psychological traps awaiting anyone who achieves significant market success. If you've ever had a winning streak that led to overconfidence, write in the comments, "I recognize that trap." But there was another revelation waiting for Wyckoff in the cotton market, one that would expose perhaps the most dangerous vulnerability in any trader's armor. Despite his years of experience and hard-won wisdom, he violated the most sacred principle of his own trading philosophy. He followed another man's opinion over the clear message of the tape. This betrayal of his own methodology came through the influence of a charismatic cotton expert named Percy Thomas. The market began to whisper its warnings as positions moved against him, the tape giving clear and unambiguous signals to sell. A small loss at this point would have been merely a minor setback, a course correction in his journey. But something deeper and more insidious had taken hold. His ego, now fully entangled with Thomas's bullish vision, wouldn't allow him to admit he was wrong. What happened next reveals a profound truth about the psychology of trading that transcends mere technique or strategy. Wyckoff held on. He began to hope. He was no longer thinking like a professional analyzing price action, but like a gambler, desperately wanting to be proven right. He had fallen into the most dangerous mindset possible, the desire to win it back by pressing a bad bet. The transformation was complete. All scientific principles of speculation were abandoned in favor of a desperate hope that the market would eventually bend to his will. Not only did he hold his losing position, but he began averaging down, throwing good money after bad. The result was catastrophic. The cotton market collapsed, wiping out his entire multi-million-dollar fortune and plunging him deep into debt. The revelation that emerged from this second devastating collapse wasn't about market techniques or trading systems. It was a profound insight into the human condition itself. In the aftermath of such a self-inflicted disaster, we witness the true measure of Wyckoff's character and the birth of what would become his most powerful principle. While others in similar situations looked for external causes to blame, the market, bad luck, or the advice they'd followed, Wyckoff charted a different path. This is where the amateur and the professional forever diverge in their journeys. The amateur always finds an external cause for failure. Wyckoff never did. He understood with crystal clarity that the market was simply an impersonal force. There was only one person responsible for his ruin: himself. This absolute acceptance of impersonal responsibility became the cornerstone of his recovery and the foundation of all genuine learning in speculation. A trader who blames others for mistakes is doomed to repeat them, for they've rejected the lesson. But a trader who looks inward, who accepts complete ownership of their decisions, gains the power to diagnose errors and ensure they never happen again. In the quiet, painful years of his second financial exile, Wyckoff began the hard work of self-analysis. He pored over his records, dissected the cotton campaign, and traced his failure back to its root causes: his own ego, his own hope, and his decision to trust another man's opinion over the clear facts of the tape. If you've ever had to confront your own trading mistakes with brutal honesty, type ownership in the comments below. This internal transformation was only the beginning. The practical rebirth of Wyckoff as a speculator required something perhaps even more difficult than psychological insight. It demanded practical humility and a complete revision of his expectations. This is where many traders who experience failure never complete their journey. They cannot bear the shame of starting over at a much lower level than they once occupied. Wyckoff took the painful first steps. He drastically reduced his personal expenses, a seemingly mundane action that represented a profound lesson in humility and respect for capital. The man who had once lived like a king now lived with the frugality of a beginning clerk. He was forced to borrow a new, much smaller stake, a process that required him to swallow his immense pride. This blueprint for rebirth reveals something crucial about the inner journey of master traders. Starting over meant accepting his position not as a market legend, but as a humble student once more. The glory days were gone. There was only the present moment, the small stake before him, and the discipline required to rebuild brick by brick. What makes this chapter of Wyckoff's story so powerful is how it illuminates the authentic process of transformation that occurs far from the spotlight. Behind the scenes of every great comeback is this quiet period of recalibration, where expectations are reset and the foundations are carefully rebuilt on bedrock, not sand. The universe, as if testing Wyckoff's newfound wisdom, soon provided another form of starting over that came not from a trading loss, but from an external event of historic proportions. When the New York Stock Exchange closed in 1914, at the outbreak of the Great War, Wyckoff found himself at another kind of zero, a speculator with no market to speculate in. In the chaotic days leading up to the shutdown, the market was a whipsaw of rumors and fears. The amateur was gambling on headlines, losing capital on wild guesses about the political future. But Wyckoff, having learned his lessons, largely stood aside. He saw that conditions weren't clear, that the tape wasn't telling a definite story, and in the absence of a clear signal, his rule was to do nothing. This enforced inactivity became one of the most valuable revelations of his career. Sometimes the most profitable action is no action at all. While countless traders wasted this period in idle frustration, Wyckoff used the months of closure for deep study and analysis. He knew the war would fundamentally reshape the world and the market, so he prepared his mind for the new game that would emerge when the exchange reopened. This period of forced patience holds a mirror to our own trading habits. In a world obsessed with constant action and immediate results, Wyckoff discovered the strategic value of stillness. The ability to wait, truly wait, for the perfect conditions is perhaps the rarest skill in speculation. The quiet moments of preparation, of study, of doing absolutely nothing in the market, are often where the greatest profits are silently being incubated. If you've ever found yourself taking a trading break and returned stronger because of it, write strategic patience in the comments below. Now we arrive at perhaps the most poignant chapter in Wyckoff's saga, one that reveals a profound truth about market mastery that few ever acknowledge. After applying all of his hard-won principles with disciplined precision, Wyckoff correctly anticipated the great crash of 1929. By shorting the market at precisely the right moment, he accumulated the largest fortune of his career, estimated at an astounding $100 million in that era's dollars. Don't miss our upcoming explorations of timeless trading principles. Subscribe now to continue this journey of market mastery together, because the most valuable lessons often come from those who faced the abyss and returned stronger. He had reached the absolute pinnacle. He had conquered the game in a way few had done before. His decades of struggle, his multiple journeys through the wilderness of starting over, had culminated in this crowning achievement. By all outward appearances, he had discovered the philosopher's stone of the market, the perfect fusion of method and mindset. Yet it was from this extraordinary height that his final, slow, and irreversible descent began. This revelation contains perhaps the most sobering insight for anyone pursuing market mastery. No amount of success, no level of achievement provides permanent immunity from the market's harsh lessons. The journey never ends. The vigilance can never cease. What makes this final chapter so valuable is how it illuminates the hidden dimension of market success that exists far beyond techniques or strategies. Wyckoff's last failure wasn't the result of a single bad trade or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a slow, grinding disintegration of the man himself, a profound testament to the true nature of this endeavor. The reasons were complex and deeply personal. His private life experienced turmoil. He endured a series of difficult and costly divorces. Personal tragedies accumulated that would have broken any ordinary person's spirit. The immense, almost unimaginable pressure of managing such vast wealth began to take its toll. The market itself was evolving. New regulations had altered the game he had mastered. But beneath these surface factors lay a deeper, more fundamental truth. Market mastery is ultimately a psychological marathon of almost incomprehensible length and difficulty. The great game of speculation, when played at the highest level for decades, is a constant battle against the powerful elemental forces of one's own human nature. After nearly 40 years of this intense, non-stop warfare, a person's mental and emotional capital can become depleted. The nerve, the confidence, the very will to continue the fight, these intangible but essential resources can slowly erode. Even the most brilliant mind can begin to dim. His legendary feel for the tape, once so clear and intuitive, gradually clouded. The once infallible decision-maker began making uncharacteristic errors. He invested in ventures outside his field of expertise. He lost the disciplined focus that had been his salvation through previous cycles. By the mid-1930s, he was for the third and final time bankrupt. The man who had risen from zero multiple times found that at a certain age, with certain accumulated wounds, the journey back becomes impossibly steep. If this perspective on the psychological endurance required for long-term market success resonates with you, type mental endurance in the comments below. So what then is the ultimate lesson that emerges from this cycle of ruin and rebirth? What is the law that Wyckoff discovered through his multiple journeys through the valley of financial death? It is a revelation both simple and profound, one that most traders never truly internalize, even if they intellectually understand it. The game of speculation is first and foremost a test of character. It is a mirror reflecting our deepest flaws, our hidden weaknesses, our emotional blind spots. Wyckoff proved conclusively that any person can lose their capital. It is an inevitable part of the journey. The true mark of a speculator is not the ability to avoid these losses, but the capacity to endure them, to extract wisdom from them, and to begin again with renewed clarity. To start from zero is not a disgrace. It is an opportunity. It's a chance to shed old habits, to correct flawed thinking, and to begin a new campaign with a clean slate and the invaluable wisdom that has been paid for with the currency of defeat. The market is a great marathon, not a sprint. The trader at the bottom today can, with the right application of principles, find themselves at the top tomorrow. This revelation runs counter to almost everything we're taught about success. In most endeavors, failure is something to avoid at all costs. But in the realm of speculation, failure becomes the essential catalyst for transformation. It is the necessary passage through which every genuine master must walk at least once, and usually multiple times. The cornerstone of this rebirth process is a profound and unflinching act of self-analysis. The speculator must look into the mirror of their own results and say, with absolute conviction, the market was not wrong. My judgment was wrong. This acceptance represents a fundamental shift in perspective, a recognition that the market is an impersonal and infallible machine. It simply registers the facts of supply and demand. It has no opinion, no malice, no favorites. A loss is not a punishment inflicted by the market. It is the market's impartial verdict on a flawed speculative opinion. By accepting this reality, the trader moves from the position of helpless victim to that of a scientist who has just witnessed a failed experiment. The task is not to curse the laws of nature, but to analyze the procedure to discover the source of error. The trader must recognize that their loss resulted from a specific mistake, a violation of sound principles of speculation. Perhaps they were ignorant of the principle. Perhaps they knew it, but lacked the character to follow it. The reason matters less than the acknowledgement that the fault lies within. This act of taking responsibility is painful, a devastating blow to the ego, yet it is the necessary and cleansing fire through which every person must pass before being reborn as a true professional. Until traders can look at their own foolishness without flinching, they are not ready to return to the game. This shift in mindset, from blaming external forces to embracing complete ownership, is perhaps the single most powerful transformation in a trader's journey. If this perspective on the essential role of failure in trading mastery resonates with you, write necessary defeat in the comments below. With the correct mental foundation established, a critical practical step emerges on the path, and back from zero, the ruthless protection of what little capital remains. This revelation may seem obvious, yet it represents one of the most profound shifts in a trader's journey. A speculator's capital is their lifeblood, the ammunition, the inventory, the essential tool of their trade. Without it, they are simply out of the game. Wyckoff demonstrated that after suffering a great loss, a trader must immediately and drastically reduce personal expenditures. This isn't merely practical advice. It's a profound psychological recalibration. The speculator must abandon the lifestyle of success they once enjoyed and adopt the frugal habits of someone truly starting over. Every remaining dollar must be treated with almost sacred reverence. This spiritual dimension of capital preservation is rarely discussed in trading literature. The desire to maintain appearances, to preserve the external trappings of success, even as the internal reality has changed. This is a form of ego that a broken speculator simply cannot afford. Their singular focus must become the preservation of their speculative ammunition. A person with $1 in their pocket is still in the game. A person with zero is a former speculator. This forced period of frugality serves as a constant daily reminder of the cost of past mistakes. It rebuilds a fundamental respect for money, respect that was likely eroded during previous success. The transformation is both humbling and liberating. The trader who learns to live on little becomes free from the desperate need for constant profits. They can afford the luxury of patience. Now, I want to go even deeper into this essential process of rebirth. Before making another trade, Wyckoff discovered that a recovering speculator must forge a new and unbreakable constitution for future operations. This represents a profound shift in mindset, moving from seeing trading rules as flexible guidelines to recognizing them as immutable laws of survival. The trader who has just learned in the most brutal way possible what happens without such rules must now determine the absolute maximum percentage of total capital they're willing to risk on any single speculative idea. This figure should be almost absurdly small, perhaps no more than 1–2% of their total stake. This isn't merely a rule, it's an insurance policy against human fallibility. It's the mathematical guarantee that no single error in judgment can ever again have the power to wipe them out completely. It removes the possibility of total ruin from the equation. The speculator must then recommit to the ironclad rule of the stop-loss. They must decide, based on their reading of the tape and the character of the stock, exactly where their opinion is proven wrong, and place their stop-loss at that point with unwavering resolve to honor it without question or hesitation. These rules, once established, aren't mere suggestions. They represent the supreme law of the trader's new existence. To violate them even once is to begin the journey back to ruin. If you've established clear rules that protect your capital after experiencing losses, share unbreakable rules in the comments below. The next critical phase in Wyckoff's rebirth process was the actual return to the market itself. This re-entry, however, couldn't mirror the bold, aggressive approaches of his past. The reality of speculation after experiencing total collapse demands a fundamental shift in methodology. His nerve had been shaken, his confidence fractured, and both needed to be rebuilt with the same care and precision as his capital. Wyckoff discovered that this return must begin with deliberately small positions, almost absurdly small by his previous standards. Picture a man who once controlled millions, now entering the market with just a handful of shares. This apparent regression wasn't a sign of weakness, but a profound revelation about the psychological dimension of trading resurrection. The purpose of these initial small trades wasn't primarily to make money. This represents a radical reimagining of trading objectives. Instead, these miniature positions served two essential functions in the healing process. First, they tested his reforged discipline under real market conditions. Could he follow his new rules when actual money was at stake? Could he cut a small loss without hesitation? Could he sit with a small profit without fear? Second, and perhaps more crucially, these small wins began rebuilding his shattered confidence. A series of modest, correctly executed trades, following his plan with precision, did more to heal his broken nerve than any amount of theoretical study or planning. These small successes provided tangible evidence that he had indeed learned his lesson and could once again operate effectively in the marketplace. The hidden wisdom in this approach reveals a counterintuitive truth about market mastery. To return to the market with large positions, driven by the pressure of needing to make a big score, invites the old emotional demons of fear and greed back into the equation. The true comeback begins almost imperceptibly small, with the singular patient goal of trading correctly, not trading for profit. This insight leads directly to what may be Wyckoff's most profound revelation: the law that most traders never truly internalize, even after decades in the market. The path back from zero is not a sprint, but a marathon comprised of 1,000 small, correct steps. The greatest enemy of recovery isn't the market itself, but the internal urge to win it all back quickly. This desperate desire for immediate redemption is born not from financial necessity, but from wounded ego. It's the gambler's instinct, the need to prove to yourself and others that your last failure was merely a fluke, that you're still the master of the game. This psychological trap has destroyed more comebacks than any market condition ever could. The professional understands that rebuilding requires the patience of a craftsman, not the desperate lunges of a gambler. Each trade becomes a carefully placed brick in the foundation of a new structure, one built on discipline rather than hope. Each failure is transformed into education rather than desperation. And most critically, the professional waits with the calm vigilance of a sniper for only the highest probability opportunities to present themselves. If this perspective on the patient process of rebuilding your trading career resonates with your own experience, write "small steps" in the comments below. What we've explored in Wyckoff's journey is far more than a historical account of one man's trading career. It's a blueprint for your own resilience, not just in the markets, but in life itself. The law that emerged from his multiple devastations isn't found in any textbook. It's the profound understanding that true mastery doesn't come from avoiding failure, but from how you respond to it. This understanding has transformed countless trading careers, including my own. The path is never linear. It's a spiral that sometimes takes us back to what feels like the beginning. Yet with each cycle, we return with deeper wisdom if we're willing to learn the lesson. If you found value in these insights today, consider becoming part of our community. Subscribe to the channel and join the conversation with others walking this same path. The markets will test each of us differently, but the principles of recovery remain constant across time. I'd love to know if this message resonated with you personally. If you made it to the end and found yourself nodding along, type "The Abyss Taught Me" in the comments below. Your experiences add another dimension to this ongoing conversation about market psychology and personal resilience. If you found this exploration valuable, a simple like helps others discover these ideas too. It's a small gesture that creates ripples of awareness among traders who might be facing their own moment of reckoning in the markets. There's a video right here that explores how to practically implement these principles in today's markets. Click and continue with me over there as we translate Wyckoff's timeless wisdom into specific actions you can take in your trading approach tomorrow. The journey continues.